This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Grace.
I'm Alexis.
And we're super excited that you returned for another episode of our new show that we started last week, Darkwing Duck. A little different of a vibe than Scooby-Doo, which is what we started with. But, you know, we're going to be doing lots of different shows, so the vibe will kind of change show to show. So stick with us. If you have show recommendations, also, as always, the inbox is open, SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com. And
send us your favorites, even your least favorites, you know. We'll watch whatever. If it's animated, we'll watch it.
We're into it.
Yeah. And if it involves some sort of crime or mystery or something like, I mean, we'll watch it regardless, but we won't talk about it on here.
Yeah, we might just watch it on the side.
Yeah. And then you'll never know that we even watched it. So what's the point?
Yeah. The point is that we appreciate you and your input either way.
Thank you.
And this week, Alexis is telling us another Darkwing Duck episode. So
I am. Let me
take it away.
Let me take my sip of water before I take it away.
Wow, dramatic.
Mm-hmm. You know me, always being extra, drinking water and such. How dare I?
Hydrate? You're hydrated right now? No.
God. Anyway, so like disgusted that you...
How dare you suggest I would hydrate? Let me drink my coffee.
Do I look Donna Meagle? Do I look like I drink water? Parks and Rec. Anyway, so
amazing.
Yeah. So we're sticking with Darkwing Duck here. We're getting dark, as his superhero identity would suggest. So yeah, the episode that I'm going to talk about today, it is officially, I guess, season 1, episode 7. But if you listen to our episode last week, Grace mentioned that on Disney Plus, where you can watch Darkwing Duck, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, go watch it. The first 2 episodes are, for some reason, missing. So it starts on like episode 3 and goes on from there. So technically, if you're watching on Disney Plus, this will appear as season 1, episode 5. But in reality, when it was first put on TV or whatever, produced, it was actually episode 7 of season 1. But either way, it's called Dirty Money. Dirty Money. And this came out September 13th, 1991 on some Disney program or whatever, some channel. I couldn't really tell what channel it, like if it was on the Disney Channel or ABC, I don't know. But it's a Disney show. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever. I was like, I'm not going to go like that far. I've got work to do. Sorry. I can't like learn every single detail about the history of the production of the show.
Yeah.
So let's set the stage here a little bit. This episode deals with bank robberies. So, you know, actually kind of similar, not too different from the stuff we see in our Scooby-Doo episodes, but it'll get deeper in just a moment. We'll see. But that is kind of like the impetus that gets Darkwing involved in this string of crimes, right? So a number of banks in St. Canard, St. Duck, as we like to call it, if you watched our last episode, a number of banks there, they fell victim to a very strange and well-scented crime. The money in all of these banks was literally cleaned out of the vaults, like cleaned, not just like stolen, like the vaults were empty, but the money was literally washed off and the ink was gone. So so all of in the process it had been cleaned, like it smelled like amazing, like lemony fresh in there, because I don't know what they had to use to clean the ink off.
Wait, sorry, you said they cleaned the like dollar bills.
So they washed the ink off, so it's just now all that's left is paper. Great. Yes, so they don't take the paper off. It's just a concept.
This is a deep episode already.
Do not get me started on that question. Oh my gosh, I can't go too deep into all of that, but yeah, anyway, bonus content. So shocked and afraid by the horror of these crimes, which, as Grace just noted, essentially rendering money worthless, just making it as valuable as the paper it's printed on. But also there's a lot of trespass here too, because obviously people are breaking into the banks
You're
to then
robbing
get down to the vaults. Yeah. And, at first when I was watching this, I was like, wait a minute, there's actually kind of an interesting crime here. Cause again, do not do this. Not suggesting anyone or making a recommendation to get into theft and like larceny and breaking into banks. But I was like, well, is it really theft? Because they're not actually like going in and carrying things out. I was like, the paper is still there.
Oh, but so the money stays in there?
Yeah, exactly. Like all the paper is in the vault. The thing that has been cleaned is literally just the ink off of the paper that the money is printed on. Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, is this like actually secretly a genius plan? But then I like had to think back. I may have also like had to double check what larceny, like what all theft entails. I was like, there has to be something here. And
can't you like not mess with like serial numbers on dollar bills?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So aside from like Federal Reserve and like Treasury, like US Mint type of charges. Yeah. So there's all that. But then just like on the local criminal level, I was like, what the fuck else could they get them for here besides just trespass? It is larceny in a sense, or like theft in a sense, because if you're removing all of the value from someone's possessions, then like in a way, or at least we can act like in St. Canard, they have some law similar to like those kind of larceny laws on the book.
And like you said,
we'll say it's
an
theft.
Entry still.
Exactly. At a minimum, it's breaking and entering.
Yeah.
And then obviously the federal like money tampering and all of that, lots of that in there too. But yeah, we'll also say that there's like some theft or some larceny because all of the value of this money, the money belongs to someone, like people put their money in a bank, they're losing their value. So things are being taken from them in a sense. I don't know if like the bank could argue that they're the ones who are being robbed or the people who own them, whatever.
Either way.
They're coming off strong with like some very confusing and actually complex charges and crimes here. So like even me as a lawyer, I'm like thinking through these things like, why is my head hurting?
Yeah, which one?
Darkwing Duck? Like banging my head against a criminal book.
From just a cartoon.
So yeah, the city of St. Canard is just shocked and horrified by these crimes. And for some reason, I guess the local government, they're not able to like wrap their minds around it. I mean, and so they actually law. It is complex, as we are discussing here. And so they decide to call in actually like this very high class, super secret international espionage agency to try to resolve the crimes, actually. And we're going to learn as we continue on through our Darkwing Duck arc here that this espionage agency will appear probably in several of our episodes. So I'm going to give a little introduction to the organization in Darkwing Duck known as S.H.U.S.H. 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 Which, by the way, this I did do some research on because I was like, what the fuck does S.H.U.S.H. stand for? Because they never say in the episode, and I wanted to make sure I put it in here if it meant something. It does not stand for anything. Literally, it's one of those famous like acronyms from old cartoons and stuff that just has no meaning. They just like, they came up with the acronym before coming up with the meaning because they just wanted to name it Shush. And then they never like came up with anything that the organization actually, like what the individual letters stand for.
Which is also funny because the way you see it always in the show, it does have like periods between each letter. It does.
It's clearly an acronym. Look like the acronym. Yeah, exactly. It's not just like it was named after Colonel James Shush or something. Like it literally, it's supposed to stand for something. And it's the running gag, I guess, in the show that they're so good of a secret spy agency that no one even knows what it actually means. Like that's how good they are at keeping secret. Yeah,
who work for them.
Exactly. And who like run the organization. So let me do just another like a quick little introduction to them besides that basic fact about them. The agency, it's led by a very tiny but wise and fierce owl who goes by the name of J. Gander Hooter. Clearly a pun on the famous J. Edgar Hoover, who was essentially the father of the FBI, the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation. Funny story, actually, too. I once took a trip and a tour around the FBI training station in Quantico. Yeah, it was dope.
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that. I'm not going to go into details about it. I did have to get like a lot of security clearances to go. I'm not going to like talk about what I did there or who I talked to there, but just saying like getting a tour around the area and like sitting in on a law class. Super, super cool. Awesome experience.
That's crazy.
All ended at that, but I was like kind of like tying in my FBI knowledge while watching this episode, because as we find out, the S.H.U.S.H agency pretty much like based on the FBI, like a combination of the FBI and the CIA. And as I said, led by J. Gander Hooter and Al. And also, so I'm going to have to say Hooter a lot in this episode. Sometimes I'll switch to J. Gander, but sometimes it's easier to say Hooter. So I will chuckle my way through that. Yes. And Hooter's right hand man is the second in command at S.H.U.S.H. is a man called, or a bear called Vladimir Grizzlykov. So
KGB?
Exactly. You would think so. So, right. He's like a tough by the book, like very large and imposing Russian bear, which by the way, I looked it up too, because his name is Grizzlykov. And I was like, I know there are brown bears in Russia, but I think so. Grizzlies are like the North American subspecies of brown bears. And in Russia, they're called Kamchatka bears. Whoa. Yeah, which actually the name Vladimir Kamchatka would have been super awesome rather than Vladimir Grizzlykov, but then, I guess I see what they were doing.
For American audiences.
Exactly. Again, maybe if they brought it back as a more grown-up show where people actually will like research what they're watching rather than just like, haha, he's a big brown bear. Like Vladimir Kamchatka would be a pretty cool
it's pretty
spy
badass.
name. Yeah. But anyway, so those are like the two people in charge of S.H.U.S.H. Hooter and Grizzlykov. Hooter and Grizzlykov.
It's not gonna get old.
It never will. Yeah. So these bank robberies are happening, or cleanings. We're gonna call it theft. There's theft occurring, and the S.H.U.S.H. agents are called in to try to make sense of what all is going on, because the local authorities are like, they're at a total loss. They have no clue how this ink is being cleaned off. And so they survey several banks in the area and they start gathering evidence and trying to investigate, but they too are unable to wrap their minds around these crimes. It's just crazy. What the hell is happening? We have no clue. So they think, well, these are very unorthodox and irregular crimes. I think we will need to call in an unorthodox and irregular investigator to help us find a conclusion and figure out who the hell is behind all of this. So Hooter decides to end total Commissioner Gordon from Batman fame. He sends a signal to Darkwing Duck. And unfortunately, we don't see like the signal in the sky or anything. Hooter just makes a note while they're like at a bank investigating. He says, hopefully, Darkwing Duck, he responds to my signal and he comes and helps us out, as like a freelance agent for this investigation.
Government contractor. Got it.
Exactly. Just almost like mercenary status, right? Yeah. Like just call him in. If someone needs to get killed, then we'll put it on Darkwing and not on us. Exactly. Blackwater. So this idea just like straight up infuriates Grizzlykov, who I might call Grizz sometimes because that's like a lot of syllables. But anyway, so Grizz, he's like very rules oriented, by the book type of guy. And he's like super apprehensive to the idea of bringing in a vigilante straight up to like help solve crimes for this federal agency.
Yeah.
And this like clearly like well-renowned spy and espionage agency. But nonetheless, Darkwing, he responds. He's super excited to get a case. And he, of course, with Launchpad, who Grace described in our previous episode, just a straight up like pilot looking dude, Launchpad McQuack, LP, just like always walking around with like his like little bandana around his neck.
He's got like his the leather helmet and the goggles.
Yeah, exactly. And like the pilot jacket. It's like, okay, it's like summer. Probably you might be a little hot wearing all that stuff, but whatever.
Where's your plane?
Where is your plane? And he never flies the plane around. Like they always use Darkwing's car and he's like in the little sidecar. Yes, it's like, why aren't you guys flying? Maybe in future episodes, we'll find out that they are. Anyway, so they arrive at the bank. They respond to Jay Gander. God.
Is
this real life or Darkwing? Is it Hooter? Is it J. Edgar? Is it Hooter? they respond to Hooter's signs, signal, whatever, and they go to the site of the most recent vault cleaning, the most recent bank robbery. And I'll just mention, like, you kind of hit on it a little bit in your last episode, but Darkwing has a lot of like great just like taglines and punchlines, and he's very, very punny. And I think they're like trying to incorporate like Batman always saying like, I am vengeance, or like I am the dark knight. Yeah, I am the darkness, or like the Shadow has a lot of old, exactly. Like crime will never escape me, for I am the Shadow. Like there are all these different like catchphrases that these like characters that Darkwing Duck is based on, like that they use. And so Darkwing Duck also has a lot of like satirical catchphrases. And so when he arrives to the bank, like every time he arrives anywhere, he is kind of like giving off these catchphrases to like let everyone know, hey, I'm here. And when he gets to the bank, you just hear like behind the bank door him like, I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the combination lock on the vaults of justice. I am Darkwing Duck. And then he like bursts into the bank and he's there. It's like, dude, why are you making such a scene? Hold on. Go ahead.
I just need a moment for I am the combination of the faults of justice.
It's so good. It's so
I was like, oh, is he gonna tie? Because the first one, the last one are like some go-to phrases, but I was like, oh, they're gonna make this about a bank. Is he gonna like make a pun about a bank? But with that, and I love it.
And here's where you'll love it even more. He actually does this multiple times in this episode. And every time it's something different.
Yes, good.
And every time it's funnier than the last one. So I'll stick with you. Yeah. Originally, when I wrote this, I was like, I won't include those. Like, let me just stick to the story. And then I rewatched it. I was like, no, these lines are way too funny not to include. So I'm going to go through. I'll say all of his catchphrases that he uses in this episode because they are golden. So that is how he makes his entrance into the St. Canardian bank. And after he does that, and I forget if like smoke is everywhere because he always has like these theatrics when he does it, but like after the dust settles, Hooter fills him in on what little information that his agents, aka Grizzly Cough, have so far obtained in their investigation. And Hooter like is actually throwing shade at Grizzly Cough, like who remember is angry that Darkwing is even there in the first place. So Hooter is like even more spitting in his like second in command's face by being like, yeah, Grizzly Cough hasn't found shit yet, so we had to call you in. Yeah, he like straight out calls him out. It's very funny. But also like eek, hostile work environment maybe, like dude, clearly like Hooter's not getting anything out of the investigation either, so it's not just Grizzly Cough. But anyway, so Grizzly Cough and Darkwing are like arguing over how they should carry out the investigation. Obviously by the book, like good cop versus Darkwing Duck, like super irrational and like uncontrollable vigilante plays by his own rules. Yes. And so as they're arguing though, Hooter like interrupts them by having a meltdown saying like, guys, like literally national security and the financial security of the country are at stake right now. We cannot be wasting time with you guys like fighting over the best investigative methods. Fucking get to work and fix these problems. This is very
that's like a good
serious.
Call from Hooter. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's also like, and I know we don't want to get political and get into these issues too much, but it's like he is just like totally simping for like banks and stuff. He's like, do you know what could happen if the economy, if money is worthless? We're just ripe for the taking. He's like acting like the Russians are going to move in any second because like, which actually maybe is true because he says that like one of the things that could happen is like, you know, foreign entities could like come in and just like start buying up all of the banks and stuff, you know, if this was a targeted attack because they're now worthless. So it's like, okay, now you have like these foreign assets owning all of the financial sector. Like, yeah, sure. There are some legitimate national security threats there, but it's just funny how much it goes off in a child show. Yeah. Like calm down.
Right. That's some propaganda right there.
Yeah.
Some capitalist propaganda.
A little bit. And so thus, you know, Darkwing, though, he takes it seriously, and he and LP Launchpad, they make their exit, and that way they can go back to Darkwing's lair, his home, probably actually just like in the suburbs, I think, as we'll talk about in future episodes.
Yep.
So that they can like read through the dossier and try to figure out what's going on with these crimes. And so the next morning, after reading through the assignment, Darkwing decides to go back to the S.H.U.S.H. headquarters to discuss the case and talk things over with Jay Gander. But when he gets there, he is shocked to see, before I say what he sees.
How does he enter?
He enters, he has to make an entry. And this actually might be the funniest one in the show. The camera is facing, I have to set up the whole scene. The camera is facing like the door of Jay Gander's office, but you're inside the office. So you don't see what's outside the office, if that makes sense. So it's almost as if like the camera is sitting at Jay Gander's desk, waiting to see Darkwing come in.
Yeah.
And from outside of the door, you just hear, I am the icky bug that crawls up your trouser leg. I don't need an appointment, for I am Darkwing Duck. Through the door and like smoke is like fills. I don't need. He's like clearly like apologizing to the secretary. He like gets there, storms up, and the secretary is like, "Sir, you can't go in there without an appointment. I don't need an appointment, for I am Darkwing Duck." Right. And like all this smoke. But hold on, it gets even better. So like as he like lets all this smoke bomb loose in the office, he's then like, "Sorry about the smoke." Like apologizes to the secretary for the mess, essentially.
The secretary's just sitting there, and like you think that he's saying all of this facing the door, but he's facing the secretary, like explaining who he is and why he doesn't need an appointment. And then he
like leaning over her desk, like looking at her, like, "Let me in."
An appointment.
Yeah. Do you know who I am? And sorry about the smoke bomb. It'll dissipate in a few minutes, I swear. Yeah. The coughing will only last for a couple minutes. So then he bursts into Jay Gander's office, but to his surprise, Jay Gander is not there. Instead, Agent Grizzly Cough is sitting at Jay Gander's desk. And so, remember, he's a by the books guy, though, Grizzly Cough. So Darkwing is, he's like kind of messing with him, but also a little bit seriously, like, wouldn't the S.H.U.S.H. like rule books like forbid this? Aren't you like not supposed to be like sitting at like, this looks like a total like workplace violation. Yeah. And he's like, well, it's actually my Grizzly Cough is like, well, it's actually my desk now. Because we learn that the night before, Jay Gander was kidnapped.
Oh, shit.
Yes, or at least that he's missing. And so Grizzly Cough is like, yep, since I'm the second in command, once Jay Gander is missing, I am now in charge, at least temporarily, until we find out where he is. Oh, damn. And so as soon as Grizzly Cough mentions that, like, Jay Gander's been kidnapped, Darkwing just like immediately springs into action. Like he like pulls a friggin' like magnifying glass out of his pocket and is just like looking around the office, and actually proves that he is an amazing detective because he's, looking around and finding a lot of clues, like noticing how clean the office is. He's looking through a wastebasket and is like, this wastebasket is spotless. And he notices there's like tracks of a vacuum around and everything. And he's like, the same people who are cleaning the vaults, they came in here and they somehow cleaned out Hooter as well. And he actually says Hooter was hoovered. Yes. Hooter's been hoovered. That is a tongue twister. Wow. Yes. Very funny. And so he's like, all right, well, I'm going to, get on the case then. Let me go do some of these, go investigate some more of these vaults, see if I can find anything. Because if we can solve the vault cleanings, then we can also find Hooter, I guarantee you. But Grizzly Cough is like, no. I am in charge now. I am Russian Bat in charge. He says like, Darkwing, look, if you're going to do this, you got to play by my rules. This is not Hooter's command anymore. So he actually makes him take, God, I got to find it. What is it called? The standards proficiency test. So
he can learn all the rules.
Yes, exactly. Like learn the rules, and then also like, I guess just like make sure that he's got the physical prowess when obviously he's already a vigilante. Like he's in good shape. And anyway.
Like, aren't you guys like, you got a missing persons case of like someone who is like very high national security intelligence.
Yes.
You need to find him now.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is not time to like take like a multi-day, multi-portion test.
Yeah.
But no, clearly they have time.
Okay.
They go to this like crazy looking obstacle course that I guess is somewhere on S.H.U.S.H's like main campus or whatever. And yeah, I'm sure that there was a written component to this test somewhere, because usually like for these kind of things, like for the FBI, for the CIA, even like for the military, it's not just like your physical like capacity. Like you also have to like test your mind and like a set of rules and whatever.
Yeah.
But no, here we're just focused on the physical component.
Yeah.
There's like this crazy obstacle course where literally every single physical limit of Darkwing's abilities are tested. Like he's got to swim by like gators. He's got to like fly over tight ropes in the air. Grizzly Cough literally uses him for like target practice with like major like bazookas and missiles and guns. But hey, Darkwing, he is just like a total superhero and clearly has like self-regeneration or like enhanced strength powers, because after all of this he leaves with like minimal injury. Like when you think in the grand scheme, like he's in a wheelchair and stuff, but like he literally had like a missile launched directly at him point blank, and he's still like, all right, let's go solve this crime, like wheeling out of the S.H.U.S.H. HQ. So yeah, he does pass the test. It probably only took a few hours off of Jay Gander's life,
like torture. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly. But it doesn't matter, because now that Darkwing has passed the SPT, the standards proficiency test, he is given the go-ahead to investigate, to keep looking for Hooter on Grizzly Cough's behalf. And of course, Launchpad is allowed to join him, but I guess since Launchpad, that's what I was just going to say, since he didn't have to take the test, Launchpad is like holding the rule book very closely to him. He's like, okay, we have to do this and this, like we have to fill out these forms before we leave.
Oh my God.
We can't make any arrests before alerting Grizzly Cough and getting backup. So Launchpad's like, I didn't take the test, so I'm like super liable if something bad happens. So let me go by the book. And so that's kind of the dynamic that we see with those two going into the investigation. You know, Launchpad's like, I'm not going to break any rules. And Darkwing is like, look, I passed this test. I'm the shit, but I'm still going to do whatever I want. Yes.
Great.
So Grizzly Cough tells Darkwing, you know, go and stake out this bank that we think is about to be hit. Which again, it's like, man, if you guys think a whole bank is about to be hit, like, how do you not already know how do you not know the answer?
Yeah,
how did you already
triangulate who's next?
Yeah, but anyway, so Darkwing is like kind of grumbling because, you know, he's about that action. He wants to actually go and like beat people up to a pulp, as we've discussed in previous episodes, perhaps running over them with lawnmowers, possibly killing people, whatever. And unfortunately, though, he and Launchpad are sent to like stake out this bank, and I think it's like a diaper truck. So it's just like this like white van truck kind of hybrid with just like diapers like stacked up on the inside. They're not even like in boxes. They're just like loose diapers, like gently not used, obviously, but yet still like ew, right? Like not what you really want to be sitting around. I guess a lot of padding if anything happens to the truck, but like ew. So they're like sitting in the back of this truck, just like looking out of these holes, I guess also that they drilled on the side, whatever.
Great.
And as they're there, like Darkwing is grumbling. He's rolling his eyes just at how like mundane these tasks are and how he wants to just be like kicking the shit out of people apparently instead.
Yep, sounds right.
And as he's doing that, though, this ginormous like tanker type of truck starts like careening down the street, like speeding, kind of like swerving, like this massive truck. And it comes to this very like dramatic full halt stop right in front of the bank and like right in front of the diaper truck that they're in, staking out the bank in, whatever.
Yeah.
And Darkwing's like, oh, yay, some excitement. So they're looking to see who gets out of the bank, because clearly this person is up to no good, driving this erratically. And more punny criminal names that we've got here. Darkwing Duck immediately notices the woman who comes out and IDs her as Ammonia Pine. Ammonia, aka NH3. We're talking about a lot of science in these episodes now too. The compound of nitrogen and hydrogen that is used in many common cleaning products. I believe it's in Windex and stuff.
Pine Sol, maybe.
Yeah, like Pine Sol, or like the nice pine scent of cleaning products and whatnot. Yes, and so he IDs
naming your child Ammonia.
Ammonia, right? I really hope that was that's her criminal alter ego name and not her birth name, but they never say. So specify. I'm gonna guess it's on her birth certificate.
Yep, Ammonia.
Especially if your last name is Pine, then really imagine naming her that. These parents, I feel. Anyway, whatever. So Ammonia, let's describe her appearance a little bit too. So I couldn't really tell. Like at first, I honestly thought she was like a chicken or something. She's very, very big though. Like she is large. She towers over everyone, and she is just like a wide bird with like an orange beak, not like a duckbill, but like just the little beak on like around the nose. Yeah. So I was thinking she was a chicken, but then I looked it up because I wanted to just like make sure I was describing her right. And some people were like, maybe she's a pigeon, or like.
So no one knows.
She's like, no one really knows. I guess pigeon was like the most official thing I could find online, but I don't know. She's all white too, which is why I wouldn't initially jump to pigeon, because they have like some gray and a little bit of black and like bluish sometimes like on them. Maybe, but she's so big.
Aren't doves just white pigeons?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, I think there's like a slight difference, but as like that in terms of appearance, pretty much. But I mean, I don't think they get as big as pigeons either, though, because pigeons like typically live in the city, so they can like eat a shit ton of more food and like get
huge.
I really like birds. We won't go, which punny in itself. Yes, how could I not like birds?
You had no choice.
But anyway, so. Yeah, she's like dressed like a cleaning lady too. So she's tall and built and has like a red bandana with black spots and like a cleaning apron of sorts, like covering her whole front, and like she looks like someone who would be around like cleaning a business, like comfy shoes, all of that. And it turns out, so Darkwing, he gives a little bit of her character backstory as well. What drove her to become this crazy, I guess, bank vault cleaning criminal? So Ammonia Pine, before this life of crime that she turned to, apparently she was a cleaning lady at a nearby research lab, which maybe it was at St. Canard University. I like instantly thought that in your last episode. I was like, oh my gosh, what if Ammonia again? Probably. Disney, hire us to rewrite to write a revival of this show. I think like we could come up with something exactly like pristinely. But anyway, so she was a cleaning lady at a nearby research lab, but there was a horrible accident of some sort with an experimental bathroom disinfectant, and the fumes from the accident, like almost like a la the Joker falling into the vat of like chemicals, like the fumes from this experiment, like twisted her into what Darkwing describes as the Mrs. Hyde, or the Ms. Hyde of the cleaning world. and so like as it's doing this, it like zooms in on her and like shows her like her descent into madness.
Oh my god.
And Darkwing makes another funny joke. He says, now Ammonia Pine scrubs for foul. And so very quickly, I'll also introduce FOWL, an acronym, FOWL. Thankfully, this one actually does mean something. It stands for the Fiendish Organization for World Larceny. So super clever name, and actually very descriptive for Disney trying to appeal to like kids in the 90s, like teaching us what larceny meant. I didn't learn legit what that meant literally until like 4 years ago. Yeah. So, wow. And so we'll probably talk about FOWL more in future Darkwing Duck episodes, so I won't go too in depth on them, but suffice it to say that they're kind of like S.H.U.S.H's evil counterpart, right? So S.H.U.S.H. is obviously like pro-democracy, pro-neoliberalism, pro-capitalism, save America, whereas on the other end, FOUL is actually a global criminal syndicate and terrorist organization led by what is called the High Command. Yeah, awesome. So they're essentially like the main like geopolitical or like national security threat to St. Canard, this fictional town of ducks and birds. And yes, so we will commonly probably see, or maybe at least a couple other times, depending on how many episodes we do, we'll see them pop up, or we'll see different villains who are working at the behest of FOUL, because what they'll do, rather than the high command getting involved in crimes themselves, they just like, similar to S.H.U.S.H., they use contract mercenaries and contract criminals to carry out all of their evil tasks around the world. And so yes, Darkwing gives that little ID on her. He clearly has like an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the villains in the area, and just like kind of informs LP of all of that stuff. And as he's talking through her like backstory, we see her just like hooking up this giant hose, literally spraying water into a bank with the hose, and like all of the security guards just like flow out. And then she runs in and starts to get to business. So they're just like talking about her while all this is happening, like in front of them, seeing like her. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, no. Let's like talk about FOUL, and let's like introduce ammonia to the audience. Whatever. But anyway, so like after all that happens, Darkwing is like, all right, well, let's spring into action. We've got her. She's here. We know that she at least is doing the bank stuff. So if we get her and apprehend her, she can, we'll torture her essentially into telling us where Jay Gander is. Good. But Launchpad, again, being very cautious because he has not passed the standards proficiency test. He's like, no. The rules here say we have to call Grizzly Call. We have to call back to HQ to get backup to come for help. And Darkwing's like, I don't need backup. I'm Darkwing Duck, damn it. So
I don't need an appointment, and I don't need backup,
damn it. And I also do not need keys to get into these vaults. I am the combination lock.
Justice.
I love it. So, he gets out of the diaper truck and he's like, let me sabotage her giant tanker truck so that she at least can't get away. Pretty smart. And he does, and it, stops her escape. But Ammonia Pine hears all of this outside, all of him like destroying her truck. And she runs out and she's like, oh, it's you, Darkwing. She's like totally not impressed. Like at first she's freaked out, like, what happened to my truck? And then when she sees Darkwing, she's like, oh, I can take you out, no problem.
Damn.
And so she like has these giant guns that like blast out this like soapy combination, of course, cleaning lady,
Dawn
cleaning money, laundering. Yes. She like, Dawn, redoing the Dawn ad. You remember after Hurricane Katrina, or just like any natural disaster, sorry, not after
oil spill,
after oil spills.
Yeah, and how Dawn helps clean oil.
Yeah, and they always have like ducks in their ads, or like they put ducks in particular, or like waterfowl. Like, look, we're cleaning this literally is a precursor to that. Spraying them down with the hose full of Dawn soap.
Yeah, literally to the ducks.
Could probably work out a good sponsorship deal between Dawn and Disney for redoing this show, but we're just going to keep talking about it until they approach us to do this. By the way, I'm sure we could get Dawn on board. Anyway, so she hits them with this soapy mixture, and it knocks them out, or knocks them back at least, and like ruins their weapons. So then Darkwing tries to like fire at her after they do that, but the bullet, which by the way, yes, it's a gun with a bullet that he fires, by the way, but thankfully it's covered, it like is in a bubble, I guess, when it comes out, because everything is like all soapy and stuff. Yeah. And so Ammonia Pine hits them back with like a bubble gun, not bubble gum, a bubble gun. And it like traps LP and Darkwing into this ginormous bubble that then of course like lifts off the ground, floats up, carries them over the St. Canard night sky. It would be like a very beautiful and like romantic thing if it were like a hot air balloon and they weren't like being chased by a criminal.
Yeah.
But
and
otherwise
like supposed to be doing their jobs.
Yeah. small
And it
details,
could, you know,
whatever.
pop at
Yeah,
any point
like
or whatever.
had potential to actually be like a very fun evening, but you know, actually turned into them being captured by a criminal. But whatever.
Also,
So they're like,
she was very correct in being like, this will be easy. She had to like fire twice and they were out of her way.
literally, exactly. She was so unimpressed. Yeah, which actually kind of terrifying for them, because it's like, shit, y'all do not know what y'all getting up against.
Yeah,
like
this is way
the FOWL
over your
organization clearly, yeah, they have their shit together. Shush, you guys need to catch up. St. Canard is not in good hands. And so they're in this bubble, they're going over the night sky, and the bubble obviously eventually bursts.
Great.
And they have to do this like crazy crash landing. I forget if like maybe they use the Cape of Darkwing or something to like try to navigate. I forget, but they eventually land in the city dump. But luckily on a mountain of tires. So like they have a section of the dump dedicated for tires. They land on that. All safe. Don't worry. It's not like they land in like a pile of like sharp objects. And, oh no, our heroes are dead. Yeah. Episode over.
Show
Jay
over.
Gander is never found. Yeah. Show over. And so after, you know, they clean themselves off a little bit, shake off the dirt from these tires in the city dump, and they make their way right back to the S.H.U.S.H. HQ to let Grizzly Cough know, like, all right, boom, it's Ammonia Pine, like no other question.
Indeed. Yep.
She's cleaning the banks. Obviously, Jay Gander's office was spotless after he was kidnapped, so she probably cleaned his office too and cleaned him out of there. But they also mentioned that, like, she got away. She trapped us and got away. Sorry, like, we know it's her, but we didn't get her. And so Grizzly Cough is pissed. He likes, he is
probably
so
terrifying.
bad. Yeah, he's a bear, a Russian bear, like grizzly bear, very scary things. So he reprimands them straight up, like, you know, that's it. You're done. You're off. If you guys, you know, threaten, or if you guys even like try to look for Jay Gander again, which this is pretty sus to me, but he's like, if you guys even attempt to look for this guy who we clearly care about missing, I'm going to have you arrested.
Oh, damn.
Like, whoa, he's so by the books that he is willing to like risk Jay Gander's safety.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so that was a little red flaggish. Also, like if this were a Scooby-Doo episode, I would be like, I would put him on the suspect list or something like that. But again, new universe, new world. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Of just like, they've made more progress than you have, Grizz. Like, they know who's up to this now.
Yeah, Grizz had no idea that Ammonia Pine had anything to do with this, even though she's clearly like a well-known, you know, criminal in the area. Like Darkwing had a whole ID, apparently has a whole file on her and memorizes her background. And yeah, she's working with FOWL, who is literally this global terrorist organization. So the fact that Grizzly Cough didn't know this is actually like, I think maybe that's a little bit more of what it was. He's like, oh shit, like I should not be in command of this agency because I did not know any of this. Get out. Get out. You're embarrassing me.
Well, and like, wouldn't you double down on like the, oh shit, we need to find him now? Because before, if it was like, oh, some petty criminal took a high-ranking official, but now an international crime syndicate is potentially behind.
We know exactly.
Yeah, the kidnapping of someone with a lot of sensitive information that they're probably being tortured for right now.
Exactly. Like, okay, this has now escalated from petty theft, or not even petty, like from like grand larceny probably to literally terrorism.
Yeah.
Like, so this, but if you investigate, you're gonna get arrested. Like, what the fuck? This doesn't make sense. Which again, if this were a different show, I would be saying add Grizz to the suspect list because this just doesn't add up. It's not reasonable. But whatever.
He's by the books though.
New show. Yeah, he's a very by the books guy. And he makes clear that threat. And so DW and LP, they're both actually pretty pissed because they're like, what the fuck? We know that we were on the right trail here. We ID'd the most likely culprit, and now he wants to like
take us off the case.
Yeah, exactly. So those two, they go off to kind of like reflect about everything that they've found so far. And because they're like actually like really concerned about Jay Gander's safety at this point, because they have now firsthand experienced how dangerous Ammonia Pine is. So they're kind of sitting and talking somewhere in the city. And as they're talking, Launchpad actually gets like very emotional thinking about like, I guess the danger that Jay Gander could be in. And he like kind of starts crying. Yeah.
Oh.
And he pulls this rag out of his pocket and is like blowing his nose and like wiping his tears. But as he pulls the rag away, Darkwing notices there's like something left on his nose, on his bill, I guess, on his duck bill. He doesn't have a nose.
Yeah.
And so he looks at it. Darkwing looks closer and he said, "Oh my God, LP, you have like ink on your face, and not just any ink. It's ink, like literally the exact ink, like of money. It's like the shape and everything. So it's like he just took like a wet dollar bill and like pasted it on there, and then like it left the imprint."
Okay,
and
interesting.
LP is like, "Oh my God, I guess it came off of this rag that I was using to wipe my face."
Yeah.
Okay, well, where'd you get the rag?
Yeah.
And LP's like, "I got it at the city dump, actually." Or like, yeah, first off, LP, what the fuck?
Come on, bro.
Right? That's gross.
Yeah.
Ew. But second off, okay. So Darkwing decides, well, let's go back that way towards. So I guess, I don't know if he found it right at the city dump, but he says he found it like after they left there or when they landed there or something. So Darkwing's like, well, let's go back to that area because clearly like this is the ink from the money. So
yeah,
somewhere around there, we're going to find more clues or possibly even Jay Gander. So they make their way to a bunch of warehouses that I guess are near the dump.
Okay.
I don't have a map of St. Canard. I'm sorry. I don't know how it adds up, but it does. Yeah. Okay. And they scale the warehouse and like climb up onto the roof. Vigilantes. They're very obviously he crushed that SPT, that standards performance proficiency test. So
doesn't need to be in the wheelchair anymore. So.
Yeah, not at all. He was in the wheelchair for literally 5 seconds. He was standing up as he was using the wheelchair. So he never, it's like that hospital policy, like, no, like you just have to leave in a wheelchair. After that, like lift you up. It's like that.
Like, I don't need
he
it.
Immediately walked away. So they're hiding out on the roof of this warehouse, and there's conveniently a skylight located on top of there. And so they're able to like look down and see what's going on inside of there.
Like,
and
don't
of course,
put your like criminal activity in a. I know natural light is great and good for like mental health and like your cronies' mental health, but like, don't have your criminal activity in such a clearly easy to spy in spot.
They probably figured like, oh, there's no windows on the side. No one will be able to get to the roof and look through that major point of access.
Go on.
So. Whole criminal enterprise is exposed down below. They look into the skylight, and of course, Ammonia Pine is indeed holding Jay Gander Hooter. That's funny. I actually typed Hoover here. I'm glad I didn't say that. Anyway, funny behind the scenes note. So yes, Jay Gander Hooter is indeed being held hostage by Ammonia Pine inside of this warehouse, I guess, near the city dump. And quite frankly, like she is straight up torturing this guy, like straight up. Like he's like tied to this giant mop or something, or I don't know. It shows they're doing different things, but he is being tortured. Absolutely. So this is a very serious, like terrorist act, domestic, and I guess in some ways international terrorism. And so as DW and LP look into the skylight or look down through the skylight at what's going on, they notice that Ammonia Pine is actually on a phone call at that moment with the high command of FOUL. So with like those 3 evil leaders of this massive international terrorist criminal syndicate, whatever. And we like zoom down and we hear what they're talking about. And the high command is like congratulating Ammonia, like, oh, you did such a good job clearing out all the banks in the area. Now our organization can like start looking to, as I mentioned earlier, buying these banks and these financial or taking control of these financial institutions because they're worthless. So we can afford to get them. Super complex. Yeah, I know. Like again, Disney, like this is super dark. Yeah. Like I think these are actually like geopolitical strategies that I want to say some bad actors would use today. Yeah, it's like
it's loosely based off of X,
like things that actually happen in the real world, which is terrifying. So anyway, Ammonia's like on the phone. She's thanking them for the high commands, like very kind words. Clearly, she's like one of their top agents because they're like praising the work she's done. Yeah. But she's not as interested in like moving on to this next plan of, taking control of all the financial. She's like, I don't really care about that shit.
Yeah.
What should I do with Jay Gander Hooter? Who like meanwhile is like tied to this mop, like being tortured. And they're like, oh, he's yours, girl. Like you did everything we need and you killed it. So as a reward, you get to kill him. Exactly. Which super dark. And she's like obviously very excited to now have this opportunity to do whatever she wants with
your murder pass.
The director of this very high-ranking, like investigative and espionage agency. So this clearly would be a federal crime.
Yeah, a lot of issues going on.
Yeah. So, which by the way, when the high command says that, I guess maybe that was like a side plot to their whole plan all along to like get rid of Jay Gander, because holding him hostage really didn't do anything to like slow down or speed up in either way Foul's plans. Because remember, like S.H.U.S.H had no clue. Like they had zero leads. Like they called in Darkwing because they didn't know anything at all, like what was going on.
Yeah.
And so Jay Gander getting kidnapped, like I think that they still would have been able to rob that last bank regardless, because whatever. I don't know. But it seemed like, the whole time they're like, oh no, let's have Ammonia Pine just take Jay Gander out on the side of us also taking control of all of these banks.
He, even though didn't know it was Foul yet, he seemed to be the only one who knew the implications of the crimes, though.
True.
Being like, this is what's going to happen. Like, here's the domino effect of like, why these, he knew motive and he knew the next steps already. So maybe they were like, no one else is going to figure it out because we're so genius. But if he goes around telling people that we're going to go buy up these banks and that we shouldn't be, it's like too high of a risk to have him blabbering about it.
True. And again, like, the S.H.U.S.H is just like S.H.U.S.H and Foul are the main, competing entities. So it's like, if there's any major entity that I guess Foul wants to like totally ruin, it's going to be S.H.U.S.H because they're like the main agency stopping Foul from doing and getting everything they want, I suppose, besides like militaries and actual like armies stopping and ending terrorism. Right. Small details. But in this case, it was like two birds, one stone. Getting them out of there, getting Hooter out of there, and also taking control of these banks. So anyway, DW and LP, they're now like, all right, we got to get in there. We got to save Hooter because Ammonia is getting ready to lower this mop that he's strapped into, those like the mop buckets that have like the ringer thing on them. So like you put the mop in it and you like pull the lever and it like, that's like what the contraption is. So he's like slowly lowering this mop that he's tied into this bucket. It actually like would be terrible. It's hilarious, but would be terrifying if it were possible to actually have a thing like that exist.
That was real.
And so right as DW and LP are going to spring in action, they're getting ready to just like do this dramatic burst through the skylight, a la Batman, obviously.
Yeah, amazing.
But right before they can do it, Grizzly Cough appears. Yes.
Where?
On the roof.
Okay.
Yes. No, he doesn't just like walk into the warehouse like, I found you. No, he appears on the roof. He sneaks up behind DW and LP and immediately arrests them because he's like, you are not supposed to be investigating this. I stripped away your license to investigate with S.H.U.S.H because I know, it's like, dude, use your fucking eyes.
Look down.
And yes, right at that moment, DW is like, dude, shut up. And he like yanks his head like, dude, look, Jay Gander is down there, like
about to be murdered.
And at first Grizzly Cough is like, I don't believe you, but fine. Like he looks down, and right as he looks down though, a plunger that is like attached to a rope, like shoots up and like attaches to his face and like yanks him down.
Oh no.
The skylight. Yeah. So that would be terrifying. They're very high up. So that would be a hard fall. Perhaps have some like broken neck bones from like that whiplash of getting yanked down and the surprise of it. Yeah. So And also now we have both the first in command and the second in command of S.H.U.S.H. both being held hostage by the FOWL organization.
Great.
This is not good. This is like a very large national security risk. Exactly. Director of the CIA and deputy director are both now like being held hostage by like Al-Qaeda or something. That would not be good. So even more so now, DW and LP are like, well, okay, we really have to help because like, I don't think anyone else knows that Grizzly Cough is here. He was out on his own following us. So spring into action.
Good.
So we now zoom into the warehouse and we see that very quickly Ammonia Pine has tied up Grizzly Cough to the same mop as Jay Gander. Jay Edgar. Every time. She's super strong. Like I said, she's a big bird. She's actually she might be bigger than Grizzly Cough now that I'm thinking back to it, which very big bird.
Yeah.
And but right as she's trying to make her escape, like she presses a button that will lower this mop into the bucket. And she's like, all right, well, I'm going to leave y'all here to die. And I'm out. Like FOWL just paid me a lot of money. So I'm about to either hit up another city and get their banks out or take a nice little vacation before they send me my next assignment.
But
as she turns away from the machine to make her exit, the lights in the factory shut off.
Good.
And we hear... Yet another warning call from our brave vigilante. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the pin that will burst your bubble. I am Darkwing Duck. And the lights flash back on. And Ammonia Pine, this time it actually scares the shit out of her. She's like frantically looking for the buttons, like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. It's like when you watch Batman and like the lights all shut off and like all of these goons are like, oh no. And they just like start shooting like wherever, like he's in here somewhere, just like get him.
Which also, just as a quick side note, like, you need in goon school like lessons about like don't just start fucking shooting your machine guns into the air. You're gonna shoot each other.
Exactly. And also ammunition is not cheap.
Right. Like you're gonna have to reload.
Don't waste that shit. Yeah.
That's never the move. That's bad gun safety.
Always find the lights first. Turn on the lights so that you can see what you're shooting. Yeah, just don't shoot randomly. Yes. So Ammonia, obviously, she's not shooting, and she's the only one there. But it's like that same like look of franticness in her eyes, like, oh my God, I have to get the lights on, or else he's gonna kill me. I can't see him. Yep. I do not have the upper hand in this fight. And so she turns the lights on, and it's actually not as much impending doom as she maybe initially thought. She sees Darkwing and Launchpad in like full on like yellow trench coats, like rain jackets with like the bucket hat type of thing and like giant umbrellas because they're like expecting her to like hose them. Or like put soap on them. So like, haha, we're ready now. Like you can't get us. We're prepared for the elements. Yes. And so then she laughs like, oh, never mind. I thought it's you guys again. I thought it was like an actual vigilante who could actually kill me. Yeah, she's very overly confident. And so they battle very briefly. I want to say that, so Darkwing and Ammonia are fighting each other while Launchpad is trying to get Grizzly Cough and Hooter off of the broom. And somehow Ammonia and Darkwing are like on bubbles, flying up high, whatever. Great. But through all of this, Darkwing literally bursts her bubble, and
he is the pin that bursts the bubble.
He is the pin. They were telling us how they were going to get her before they even got her. And so after Launchpad is able to get our unfortunate hostages, our S.H.U.S.H. agents and hostages to freedom, Darkwing like pops he's the pin that pops the bubble like right over this contraption, this mop ringing thing, and Ammonia Pine falls into, or is that, I think, she falls into one of her own. It's either that or a giant vacuum, one of the two things. There's a lot cleaning device. There's all these giant gadgets. So in addition to being like Hyde or whatever of the cleaning, the Miss Hyde of the cleaning world. She also is like an inventor. She makes all these crazy, like ginormous, oversized cleaning torture devices, as I mentioned with the mop bucket. Yeah, torture, whatever. One of them is also a vacuum cleaner that is also somehow involved in this battle. And yeah, it causes her to then fall into the mop bucket. And she succumbs to the very evil creation that she indeed herself created. And it's funny, like you said in the last one, how, you know, Darkwing just like mowed over Dr. or Professor Beetroot or Dr. Beetroot, whatever, or Bushroot, sorry. Bushroot, yeah. And in this one, they like just let her fall into this obvious torture device, and like they don't turn it off. They just like stand there and watch as she's like wrung through this thing. Oh my God. Yeah, they're like, all right, we got Hooter, we got Grizzly Cough, let's go, guys. Yeah. And like in the next scene, you just see the four of them. So LP, DW, Grizzly Cough, and Hooter just all standing outside like, man, glad we figured this one out. Foul is like really taking it too far. And meanwhile, as they're talking, you see like actual authorities, like police officers, like four of them like carrying Ammonia Pine out. She's like all flattened and they're like carrying her out like a giant piece of glass. You know how like someone has like each side and they're like carrying it flat and they just like throw it into a police van and drive off. So she's not dead. Similar to Bushroot, you see his beak or his bill or whatever. So I think she's like screaming something like, this isn't the last of me, as they're carrying her enlarged flattened body out to the police truck. And that's it. You know, Hooter thanks him. He's like, I knew that we needed these unpredictable methods, and you came through for us. But very funny, DW is like, you know, this time we did it by the book. Actually, like somewhat to be like, look, didn't I follow the rules? Even though please don't really still arrest me. And this like clearly annoys Grizzly Cough. So like the last thing you see is Grizzly Cough just like pissed off looking at him like, that's what you call following like the rules and going by the whatever.
Like, bitch, I had to save you.
Yes. So the episode ends with Ammonia Pine possibly still being out there. Perhaps
but we'll see her again.
In custody, yes. Who knows how? I mean, I assume the prisons and St. Canard are like in Gotham, like Arkham Asylum, like the criminals always get out. Like how many times is the Riddler and Joker like broken out of Arkham?
So it's like way barely a prison.
Yeah, it's like a daycare, glorified daycare for psychopaths. Daycare. So we will probably see Ammonia Pine again. We will definitely see S.H.U.S.H again, and we know that even though Grizzly Cough and DW and LP were able to work together, in this case, Grizzly Cough definitely is still not fond of the vigilante life that Drake Mallard leads.
Wow, great work. That one was
thank you.
Very much a roller coaster of, we got some geopolitical shit in there. We looked at our own infrastructure and systems, and also
national security. Yeah.
All right, they got Ammonia Pine and all that kind of stuff, but like they didn't stop Foul from buying up the banks now.
Yeah, no.
All those crimes were still done.
Yeah, like the banks were all still worthless. They can't like reinstate the value of those dollars. Like all that is just worthless paper now. Foul is still, I guess maybe now they know to like vet any entities that come in like looking to acquire these banks or whatever. They're like, we're gonna like do extra background checks to make sure you're in no ways at all like tied or associated to Foul, I guess. But like
but either way, they have like a lot more work to do now.
Exactly. Like this was literally, if like in a football equivalence, this is like not even a first down in the overall
they have the
game.
Whole game to go still.
Yeah, like guys, and you're down by like 5 touchdowns. You're down by like 5 possessions.
There's like
that's how many banks have been cleaned. Yeah.
So wow, great work.
Thank you. Good episode. Nice. This was a fun one. You know, I can't wait to hear what you've got next. Nowhere near as dark. Thankfully, there wasn't really, I don't think there was murder. Although I got to say, when Ammonia Pine was like spraying the hose into the bank, I said that like you see security guards get washed out. If I recall, they literally like you see them like in it's almost like a river that is formed like in the middle of the city. And they go straight into a sewer. Like the river takes them like almost like It or something. How you see Pennywise's hand it's like that kind of sewer, not like the manhole. But the one like built into a curb.
Yeah.
Like they just go right in. So maybe, I mean, if this in any way is a crossover with the Stephen King universe, then maybe they ended up in Derry. and
like, I mean, she was about to murder Hooter and Grizz. So, but I really like the like complexity of the crimes in Darkwing Duck of like, there's a whole plot going behind this crime. It's not just like a unanswered, which we found in Scooby-Doo sometimes, like an unanswered crime type of thing. So
like no motive, or like this guy randomly is reliving his horrors of his high school prom and decides to haunt the prom or something.
To say about it.
Like legitimate, espionage, like you said, like geopolitical strategies at work here, national security threats, like national financial security, like economic, like very highbrow, very high level stuff for a Disney show in the early 90s.
Were crazy, man.
Yeah, which again, why as I've been watching this, I'm like, this might be a good one to like, if they wanted to bring back a cartoon and like maybe redo it to make it more like adult oriented. Like I actually think you could do a lot of fun stuff with Darkwing Duck. That would be an interesting one to try.
For sure. I'm into it.
Yeah, a good spy thriller comedy with like animals as the main characters.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I would immediately watch that. So
for sure.
Just saying.
Nice.
So
good work.
But before watching that, I hope you all enjoyed watching this. And I hope that you guys convince other people to enjoy watching this. So on that note, like who should they tell this week? Or about this week's episode? Or who should they tell?
Okay.
Watch this episode.
So today's who they should tell comes from a real life moment.
Oh.
Of who you should tell, because I on accident told someone.
On accident?
Here's the situation.
On purpose.
No. When this episode's coming out, when you do it, it'll be on purpose. When this episode's coming out, it'll be past tax season, but we're in it right now. And so a little bit of behind the scenes to this show is that we record over Zoom because we're on a literal different coast from each other. And in order to like, just, keep things in line, if we both need to access it, we have a specific Saturday morning mysteries Zoom, which is I log on to it on my computer. The name says Saturday Morning Mysteries.
As you can see, her name is not Saturday Morning Mysteries. Her name is Grace Wolfskamp. But
exactly. And so I, need to get my taxes done. And so I found a local accountant, local CPA to do them for me. And they're still being, gratefully COVID precautious and stuff. And so they're still just doing stuff online on Zoom. I had never met them before, ever. Whatever, we set up a Zoom call. So I enter it and it's like waiting to be entered by host, waiting to be entered by host, waiting to be entered by host.
Oh boy.
And I finally do. And she was like, Grace? And I was like, yeah, hi, nice to meet you. And she was like, oh, I just got confused because it said Saturday Morning Mystery. I was trying to enter the Zoom call for my taxes. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a podcast that I have with my friend. So then I sat through my whole tax meeting
with Saturday Morning Mysteries as your name.
So tell your accountant this week about Saturday Morning Mysteries, because mine knows now.
That's hilarious. I also, before I piggyback and say who you should tell in response, to first of all, I don't know if there is anyone else. That might just be the only person to tell this week. Grace has been very excited to tell me this story. I think she texted me maybe like 2 weeks ago saying, like, oh my God, I have the best who to tell story. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago. So I've been waiting for this. That did not disappoint. That was good. Also, wait, so do you have like a personal Zoom account too? Like, did you mistakenly log into ours, or did you, which obviously I don't care. Like, you can
I have my own. It's just like, I don't use it anymore because I have a work one and stuff.
And so now you have this one too.
Right. So, on my personal laptop, it's logged into ours because like I don't use it between our recordings. And so I just didn't think of it. I was like, oh, I'll just hit
immediately log on,
accept meeting. And I just assumed that it would just like be my normal Zoom account. Like I didn't even think about it. Like there was no even moment in which I was like, which one am I logged into? I was just like, Zoom.
You also think that it would, I mean, it makes you think what email? Yeah, like you think it would send it to the email linked with your account.
I was able to just click it on my Google Calendar and then opened it up in a program on my actual like desktop, which is ours. And she was like, I was so confused. And I was like, yep, it's the podcast and vodcast.
Wow, so, that's great. Well, I hope to it. Yeah, I hope your accountant's listening.
Yeah, she was really nice.
Enjoyed it. Good. Maybe she enjoyed our little discussion of, hey, we talked a lot about money today and currency. So this would actually be a great episode for her to jump in on. Although I guess you told her when like multiple episodes back
hopefully
in terms of
listening.
But yeah, hopefully you're still listening by now. And yeah, it's probably like right around tax season or right around tax day, I should say.
Yep.
Now that we're putting this up, maybe she's a little busy, but if you're not, wind down, listen to us. I hope you enjoyed it. And I guess on that note, I will say that ask your accountants if you haven't already done your taxes, like me. I'll do those in a couple of days. Still have a couple of weeks till official day. Yep. But anyway, ask them to like put a little note. You know, sometimes you can like put notes on there for the IRS or for whoever's addressing things on the government side. Tell the IRS person, have your accountant, or if you do your taxes by yourself, like in the end, like any additional amendments or comments you'd like to make, watch Saturday Morning Mysteries on YouTube / listen on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, wherever you listen, Stitcher, however, whatever. Yeah. So tell the IRS.
Yeah. I mean, we can't speak for them, but like maybe you'll get like a little slightly better tax return because you like, happen to give a great recommendation.
Yeah, maybe they'll like it and they'll be like, I will ignore these bills that you did not include.
Maybe they'll commit tax
these deductions
for you
that you're claiming.
Because that's how good this
is. Like, we'll throw a couple other deductions on there for you. You made me laugh today with this recommendation. Yes.
Wow.
Spice up the IRS agent's life.
Yeah, they're probably stressed AF
with some Saturday morning mysteries. Yes.
Yep, there you go. Great. Cool. Well, we'll see y'all
next week. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.